One of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter. So I stand before you today, Mr. President, and my colleagues, to say this will be my last term as Republican leader of the Senate. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
I mean, he's 82 years old. He's gonna go somewhere pretty soon. But for now, he's going to remain in the United States Senate, even though, as you just heard from Senator Mitch McConnell, he is in fact stepping down from his leadership role within the Senate. Now, he was previously Senate Majority Leader. Now the Democrats have a slim majority in the Senate. The Senate Majority Leader, of course, is Chuck Schumer. Mitch McConnell is the Senate Minority Leader. But again, as you heard him say in that clip, he does not plan to resign before his term is up. And his term ends January of 2027, when he'll be 85 years old. Like, let that sink in. He's already 82 years old. Just take a load off, brother. Like, enjoy your life. Like, I can't imagine loving the Senate and all of its dysfunction so much that at 82 years old, you refuse to just resign and go live your life. Anyway, the person who might be saddest about this news might just be the president of the United States, Joe Biden, a Democrat. Here's what he said after hearing about the news. He, meaning McConnell, and I have trust. We've got a great relationship. We fight like hell, but he never misrepresented anything. I'm sorry to hear he's stepping down. What a bromance. And look, I don't know what it is about McConnell that Democrats seem to be pretty enamored with, because if you can remember, during Trump's presidency, current Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer struck a deal with McConnell to essentially allow for the confirmation of hundreds of conservative federal judges. Like, why would you do that? Okay, well, he did. And again, you see on the surface, these like drag out fights between Democrats and Republicans usually plays out in corporate media. But behind the scenes, they're striking all sorts of shady deals. And you have President Joe Biden talking about what a wonderful guy Mitch McConnell is. Okay, sure.
We might have millions of people watching this show, but you can be the difference maker, because we just need 1% of our audience to be paid members, and then this show can be around forever. So you can make that difference. Click join now.
Now, Representative Matt Gaetz singing a different tune today, because he's in a celebratory mood after hearing news that McConnell is no longer going to serve as the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He said, we've now 86'd McCarthy, meaning Kevin McCarthy, the former House Speaker, McDale, and McConnell. Better days are ahead for the Republican Party. And for anyone who might not know, 86 means to basically take something out or to do away with something. Now, the House Freedom Caucus also posted a similar sentiment on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is the far right wing of the Democratic Party, of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. They write, our thoughts are with our Democrat colleagues in the Senate on the retirement of their co-majority leader, Mitch McConnell, Democrat from Ukraine, they allege. Obviously, McConnell is not a Democrat from Ukraine. He's deeply, deeply conservative, but he's a neocon, which is basically in disagreement with the modern day Republican Party, the party of MAGA, which is certainly more isolationist and doesn't really favor neocons like McConnell. No need to wait till November, they write. Senate Republicans should immediately elect a Republican minority leader. Now, McConnell holds the record for the longest serving Senate leader in history, having won the position back in 2006. Over the years, he has seen the Republican Party transition from the Bush era neoconservatism that has now unfortunately infiltrated the Democratic Party. And he saw that, all right, now we're dealing with isolationists and the faux populists that typically make up the lawmakers who serve MAGA voters. And he doesn't really agree with them. He kind of seems out of place in this new era of the Republican Party. McConnell stated during his resignation speech, quote, believe me, I know the politics within my party at this particular moment in time. I have many faults. Misunderstanding politics is not one of them. And look, I'm gonna be honest with you. McConnell very clearly is not a proponent of Donald Trump, does not agree with Donald Trump's policies, and is probably not looking forward to the possibility of Trump getting elected for another term, and then having to be the Senate minority or majority leader who would have to basically deal with two wings of the Republican Party that are in complete disagreement on some major policy issues, including foreign policy. So stepping down from the leadership role, I do think makes a lot of sense. Not only because he's 82 years old, but also because all of that contention and all of that battling among the Republican Party can't be good for him, and I'm sure he's not looking forward to that. The senator has thus far refused to endorse Trump for the 2024 election, even though he will clearly be the party's nominee. He handily won Michigan last night in the Republican primary, but don't worry, Nikki Haley is still in the race. Okay, McConnell also failed to stand up to Trump when it may have mattered the most in the aftermath of the January 6th Capitol riots. Now, McConnell voted to acquit Donald Trump of the impeachment charges that the House had voted on and agreed upon. He did this even though he had forcefully criticized the former president, right before he decided to acquit him. Now, McConnell was also happy to work with Trump to confirm 3 new Supreme Court justices. That doesn't surprise me at all. I know that McConnell cares deeply about giving lifetime roles to conservative judges and justices, so of course he did that. He also confirmed hundreds of federal judges after striking a deal with Democrat Chuck Schumer. And he also successfully passed Trump's sweeping tax cuts, of which he was in complete agreement of. He absolutely loves tax cuts. He would like the government to tax as little as possible. And he also attempted to repeal the Affordable Care Act, though he and the Republican Party failed miserably in that effort. Now, he also notoriously blocked Obama's attempt to appoint Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. And that's just the start of his legacy. That's just the tip of the iceberg. He has worked relentlessly to legalize money in politics and bribery. The way McConnell ended up making his name was decidedly unglamorous, blocking campaign finance reform. McConnell helped take the quest to kill restraints on spending all the way to the Supreme Court. In public, McConnell says one thing. McConnell claims that his advocacy for more money in politics is all about defending free speech. But behind closed doors, he reportedly told other senators that it is actually about winning elections, much to the detriment of the American people, considering that corruption obviously has a big impact on how our lawmakers legislate. McConnell has also legislated on behalf of his wealthy donors, so let's get into that. In 2014, for instance, shortly before Republicans took the Senate, McConnell appeared as an honored guest at one of the Koch's semi-annual fundraising summits. He thanked Charles and David, adding, quote, "I don't know where we would be without you," end quote. Soon after he was sworn in as the Senate Majority Leader, he hired a former lobbyist for Koch Industries as his policy chief. That's how the sausage is made, folks. But there's more. In the 2020 election cycle alone, McConnell raised more than $250,000 from 37 different Fortune 500 CEOs, which happened to be more than any other candidate in a competitive race. So he loves that money in politics. And by the way, that same election cycle, less than 8% of donations to his campaign actually came from his home state. So again, let this really sink in. This is how politics really works. And this is the way McConnell has wanted it to be. He fought tooth and nail to ensure that legalized bribery is part and parcel of the American political system. Now, enough about the past. What lies in store for Senate Republicans? McConnell's planned exit will set up a tough fight to succeed him, likely among the so-called 3 Johns. Minority Whip John Thune, former Whip John Cornyn, and Republican Conference Chair John Barrasso. So I'm really curious to see how this is all gonna play out, because as we saw in the House of Representatives in the battle for the speakership role, you have the two conflicting wings of the Republican Party going to battle. The Senate is a little more cordial. I've noticed that the Senate is definitely different from what you experience in the House of Representatives, where it's not really the place where you will likely see the kinds of knockdown, drag out fights that you saw in the House between people like, let's say, Representative Matt Gaetz and Representative Max Miller, right? You don't see that kind of stuff really going down in the Senate, but we'll see. For instance, Senator Tom Cotton, who is close to McConnell, is considering running for a leadership position in the GOP amid the coming leadership shuffle, and is being encouraged to look at a bid, said a person familiar with Cotton's thinking. So look, one thing I know about politicians in general, and certainly of the Republican Party, is they love power. And so there will be a battle for that speakership role. I don't know if it's going to be as gruesome as it was in the House of Representatives. And by the way, that wasted a ton of time when these lawmakers should have been legislating and doing their jobs. But I do know that there's gonna be a battle of some sort. So I guess that's something we can look forward to.